All right, this is Ranking of Roguelites Part 1. I'm Colton, joined by Quinn and Kudrow.
Hey guys.
Yo.
So, our first roguelite, Hades, um, heralded as one of the best roguelites by most, I think. So, in Hades, you play as the son of Hades, Zagreus, and you're trying to leave your home of the underworld. Your father forbids you from leaving, but you disregard this and attempt to leave anyways. And then this becomes the gameplay where you are working upwards, trying to escape the underworld as you go through encounters as each floor, kind of, or each room. Um, and the story plays into the run based element of the game because every time you don't survive a run, you respawn from a pool of blood in the underworld. So that's like your home, basically. You respawn from there because you're essentially a god. So you die, but you don't really die. You just spawn in the underworld. You already live in the underworld. Um, and then along the way, you meet all kinds of characters from Greek mythology, in the form of other residents from the underworld and in the form of magic abilities sent to you from the inhabitants of Mount Olympus. So, I guess a good place to start is probably the story of this game. And for me, of any roguelite game I've played to date, this is definitely the best story I've encountered in a roguelite.
Yeah, I think this. I mean, I haven't played that many roguelites, so
Mhm.
I don't have vast knowledge. But this story was in conjunction, especially with like the art style and the graphics that
Mhm.
it has, was very engaging and really cool. And
Yeah.
it definitely brought you into the game, which I think is a great accomplishment for especially for a video game like this where it's not you're not continuously like kind of working with all the characters. It's just you by yourself,
Right.
working through levels.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. It's really good.
When it does present you with like those other characters, like the only you just get like literally it's like an art thing of the character, like Athena. Like it's just like an art of Athena with her spoken dialogue. And I think all of the spoken dialogue works really well. And it's like not, it doesn't take itself too seriously and it's like entertaining. Like I really feel like I had so much fun with the dialogue continuously throughout playing it. It wasn't like I did this for 5 hours. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of tired of the dialogue. I was listening to the dialogue every time the whole time I was playing. Uh,
Mm.
I thought all the gods were interesting. I thought the voice acting was very good from like everyone involved. I can't look at any of them and say, "Oh, well, this there was some bad voice acting." Like I really feel like across the board, the voice acting, dialogue was all very good. Um,
Yeah, and I think especially the way it's kind of a dungeon type game is you're gonna encounter the characters over and over again, right?
right?
And I
Yeah.
think there really wasn't a problem of it being weighed down by getting the same messages from the same characters over and over again.
Mhm.
Like I never felt like bombarded all the time where I was just like
Right.
trying to skip through it just just to get it over with type of thing, which was really
Yeah.
good. So
And even though it's a like there's such a progression of the story, even though you're just playing through the same thing over and over again, the way they kind of weave the story progression into you playing through like repeated kind of runs, I think that's really interesting. And I just feel like the depth of that they achieve in the form of a roguelite is it's pretty amazing. Uh, but yeah, I loved the story. I still want to play more to hear what it does, like continuing. But
yeah, I didn't have um the time to finish. I got cut off because I was gonna play some today and it, on PC Game Pass. So
what boss did you get to?
um,
Did you
I
get
I
past
just made it into the
the third world?
Elysium. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Mm.
that's like, I mean, there is a fourth world, but it's much smaller. So, um, yeah, Kudra, what did you think about the story? Did you like it? Any additional?
Oh,
No.
I adore it. As a mythology fan, like one thing I would even like maybe go a little bit more detail in is like, just how I feel like they do mythology a great justice.
Mhm.
I mean, like there are some elements of it that are very downplayed, which I kind of understand for Western audiences when you're looking at themes of like, the incest that's prevalent in Greek mythology.
Sure.
I don't really see how that ever come up, but I mean, like
Right.
the fact how they're able to portray so many like the just a general dysfunction of the Greek pantheon through the story in multiple ways too, because like you obviously have like the estrangement of Hades
Mhm.
from and all the chthonic gods from the Olympian gods. But then even the general dysfunction of the gameplay, like when you enter a room and you have to do the trial of the gods.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
hate
where
those.
there's 2 of them and you have to pick one and the other one gets mad at you. It's like they
Yeah.
turned it into, like, modern family drama kind of, but, like, in the setting of, like, Mount Olympus. And
Yep.
yeah, it's like it's just kind of a fun time. It's not too, like, dark and yeah,
Right.
it's
Yeah, I like the relationships between, I mean, you and the
mhm,
characters of the underworld as well. It's like there was almost like a familiarity to, all the different people that were in the home base, so to say, which was cool too. And then kind of like what you were saying, as you talk to them, and you could give gifts to the gods as well that would like
right,
better your relationship with them.
mhm,
Yep. The
Um,
nectar.
right, and so that would give you some benefit. So you could you could give gifts to only the same god, or you could spread spread the love around, which it it just added another dimension to
yeah,
the
I
story
guess
as well as the gameplay.
we can kinda go into the mechanics from there in terms of, like, abilities and such because a lot of the it revolves around you getting abilities from the different gods that you find. So after
Mhm.
you clear a room, you can sometimes get like it'll show up as a little symbol. Each god has a different symbol, and then you can get different abilities. And it's cool how all the abilities are like based on the different gods. So like Zeus has like lightning attacks. You can find Hermes, and he'll give you speed boost items. You can find things from like Poseidon, and he gives you like water based stuff. So the way that that kind of works into the whole thing's really cool. And like and they're vastly different. And you can have like one god for your attack and a different god for your projectile and a different god for your special. So there's a lot of variation each run as you find the different gods.
Mhm.
Uh, and I found like Dionysus, the wine god. I really ended up liking his abilities. Like his abilities give hangover, so it's like a lingering poison. So I've had a lot of fun with his abilities.
It's kind of funny because I forgot how strong his abilities were
Mhm.
until I completed. I did a third when I was finishing up my third run, which by the way was I had some godlike RNG, pun completely intended, because
Uh,
I ended up with like two duo boons, two
mhm.
legendary boons, and so like I just beat the crap out of the final boss.
Hmm.
But but yeah, that damage over time effect, especially if you can get the duo boon with Ares that decreases the amount of time between damage ticks,
Mhm.
it's just busted.
Yeah, and I feel like I had fun each run with the different things I was building, and never did I feel like, "Oh, there's no hope for this run." Like, I felt like I had success with different types of things on
Mm-hmm.
different occasions, and I felt like there was a lot of freedom there, where I was just ended up playing a completely different style almost sometimes because I was playing around something else I had upgraded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
the flexibility with the builds that you can do is really interesting. And then like then you have the relic systems where you can where you can equip them, and then you can get like the god you're specifically looking for to appear,
mhm.
which can add a lot of flexibility. Even you even have cast builds, which
Yeah.
I was I was very sad the one time I got a couple really good cast builds, but unfortunately I had like no health and other ways to deal damage, so then I died to the final boss on that one. Sad
Uh,
day.
I think I really appreciated the way it lets you just stack the power ups. Like it won't let you have like two like casting abilities, but there are there's so much stackability. Like you can get one that'll just make your attack faster. You can also you can just stack so many things. It doesn't make you feel like, oh, well, you got to trade it for this one to become less powerful here. In most cases, you can just keep stacking more stuff on top of your guy, and it really makes you feel really powerful towards the end of your runs. And like every run I lost, I was like, oh no, I had such a cool thing. I got to start over again. But then I found something cool the next time. So it's yeah.
Thankfully, the amount of times I lose a run is becoming increasingly rare.
Wow, pro gamer.
Well, to be fair, I mean, you cleared your first run about 8 runs before I did. So
yeah, I feel like you just got to use the shield. I learned how to effectively use the shield, and that thing just destroys.
Yeah.
Shield is really good.
I just always end up picking what weapon the darkness highlights for the added bonus and for the added darkness and gem bonus. But I haven't, in the last like 7 runs, the darkness refuses to go to either the bow or the shield.
See, you got to move. So the darkness and gems are things you can use to the darkness you can use to upgrade your character, and the gems you can use to upgrade things in the house, and also like you can upgrade like healing pools during your runs to get more of those. But yeah, Kudra, you just got to move away from that and just start worrying about pure power, and that's the shield. If we're talking about weapons now, I'm going to tell you I love the shield. And it's not that the other weapons weren't fun. The shield's so strong.
It's because you can block attacks with it.
The only time that the block really was integral, I feel like, is the final boss, because the final boss, I guess big time spoiler territory now. We're going to really get into spoiling it here. The final boss is Hades. And one of his attacks is like a circle of lasers, and as Kudro told me, he's like, well, you just hide behind the object. And I'm like, well, sure. If I was really good, I would do that. But instead, I play with a shield and I just hold my shield up.
Right. That's how, even on the first boss, too, that I utilize that. A lot of you get closer to Meg.
The first 2 bosses, I aggressively chase around and just beat on.
Right. But she would do that one. She would do, at least the first boss, she would do that one where she would spit out the projectiles.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Obviously, if you backed up, you could
hold your shield
kind of go around. But if you use your shield, you could just hold it and then dash through.
The first boss, like I never found a great way to dodge those. I'm guessing you're supposed to dash kind of around them. I mean, you could kind of circle around them, but
yeah, I'm about to say it's like, but it also depends on but it also depends on which of the Furies you're fighting, right? Because Tisiphone fights differently than Megara, fights differently than Alecto.
Yeah, so another great thing, the bosses literally shift as you go through the game. Like the first boss, you fight Megara the first time, but then
you just call her Meg.
Yeah. But after that, you find out she has 2 other sisters that you can also sometimes fight, and they have like variations in style, as well as the second boss, the Hydra. There's variations on the Hydra. And then the third boss is in the third world, you fight a Minotaur. You can fight a Minotaur as a sub boss, and then the actual boss of the third one is
Asterius is the Minotaur.
Yeah,
Perseus is the other guy.
Perseus, I thought it was like Theanos or something.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's Perseus. Am I I feel like I can't be misremembering this name, but as many times as I have fought him.
I thought it was Thanatos is the
Thanos.
No, there's a Thanatos though.
It is. Oh, Theseus. God, I did misremember his name. God dang it.
Wow.
So,
yeah, and then like in terms of weapons, Quinn, it sounds like you agree with me. The shield is the all powerful.
I used the first weapon like for 1 run, and then as soon as I was able to, I upgraded the shield, and I just used the shield for the rest of the time.
Yeah, I did not have much luck with the sword. I did not like using the sword. I felt vulnerable.
Yeah. The
Yeah, the
last
shield was just a nice security blanket that you could just
Yeah,
throw it up.
right. um,
the last run I lost was with the sword.
I do think now that I've cleared though, I may like go and play with some of the other weapons. But I was so like, I'm like the shield's the best. I got to keep playing with the shield because I really wanted to beat Hades. Um,
Right. I mean, that just speaks to the replayability, right? You get
yeah.
new bosses and you can use different weapons, and then
Mhm.
um, all the the level or not the levels, the power ups affect the weapons differently. So it's just like exponential like ways of playing the game, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I mean, variation in runs is, I, it feels really good. I, I I can't fault anything there. I don't think. It gives you a lot of like. There's also just more additional things like you can pick different pathways, and it'll show you what type of item you're gonna get when you finish that pathway. Um, you can run into other rooms with other characters you meet that will give you different buffs in each world. Um, you can run into what is it? Chaos? Is that what that one is? Uh,
The one where you go into the portal that hurts you.
yeah, yeah, chaos where you
Yep,
take
that's
health
chaos.
damage and then I honestly like I still feel like there's a lot of stuff that I haven't even got to fully get into. Like there's other stuff I'd want to kind of try out more, even though
Mhm.
I've played through and beat it. But um
Yeah, I liked the chaos because it was like you take a negative, but overall
mhm.
you're supposed to get the
You get a
benefit.
you get a
So there's just
positive like 5 rooms later.
right. It just gives you more options and ways to play the game, which is really cool and
Mhm.
really can tailor your game to how you want. Especially because a lot of times when I was doing my runs, I was like, oh, I have the shield. I just need to boost my health, like just get my
Mhm.
health as high as I can, and then I can go
Right.
as
Yeah,
far
you
as I
get
can.
you kind of get on different tactics. Like, oh, you're
Right.
like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
gonna build up my health. And then you get into like these situations where like, oh, do I want to build up my health? They're like, oh, this is Dionysus though. Like I do could that be a good upgrade in there?
Right.
Uh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so that's kind of a fun thing where it's like hard for me to pick a lot of the time which one I want, unless it's the hammer. What's the hammer called that
The
upgrades your weapon?
Daedalus hammer.
The Daedalus hammer. Always get that one. That thing's a monster.
Well, it can be. I find some of the enchantments for certain weapons can be a little underwhelming, but
Oh, gotcha.
overall, though, not too bad. Not too
Yeah.
bad.
So do you have a favorite weapon, Kudro? Because you sounds like you've you know played with a lot more of them than we have.
I played with all of them.
But well, yeah, I mean, I played, but like it sounds like you've spent more time with each of them. Because I like the sword, I in the spear, I played like 1, 2 runs, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna play the shield again.
Mhm. Yeah, like I like the sword,
Mhm.
but I feel like the fists,
Oh,
the
that's what.
fists,
Yeah,
the fists just speak to me
that's
on
been
a
my
level
second
that the other
favorite.
weapons don't.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
But at this point, funny enough, I actually just cleared a run like an hour ago
Oh, with the fist.
with the gun,
Oh, with the
actually.
gun. Gotcha.
So yeah, at this point, I have 4 clears. I have 2 with the fists, 1 with the gun, and 1 with the spear.
Nice.
So
Wow. No shield. It's bold.
you think I don't need to hide behind that shield?
Um, and another cool thing in terms of variation is after you beat it, you can get these little red skulls, like you can like skulls you attach to your run. They're called heat, and you can turn up the heat, and it makes the run harder with different variations.
Yeah, the punishment mechanic.
Think of it like like skulls from Halo, kind of like it's like, oh, this effect will be in play. Um, but that kind of
Have
goes.
you?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just thinking, have you played with some of those?
Just a couple, because I've only played a few runs since completing the first time.
Some of those are
Some of them look
pretty
crazy, yeah.
difficult. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so one of the runs that I cleared, the second run that I cleared, so okay, the second run that I cleared, I put on extreme measures 1, which that's actually my favorite one that I played with so far because it just makes the Furies fight more difficult.
Yeah, that's the one I took at first too.
But I feel like it actually makes it a lot more of an enjoyable fight as you start getting better at the game. But like I started experimenting with some of the other ones. Like one of them was I turned on the trap one.
Mhm.
All traps now deal 400%
Oh
damage.
gosh.
It like okay, so like the first 3 levels really wasn't that bad.
Mhm.
But once you got to the Satyr tunnels, I've never been more scared for my life. Because like you step on so I only lost 1 Death Defiance that entire run. And that was the one I won with the spear. And what ended up happening was I was fighting in the Satyr tunnels in one of the last rooms, and I stepped on the trap, and I got hit by one of those like the guillotine traps.
Mhm.
That thing did like 200 damage,
Oh.
and just
Yeah,
immediately
even like
stripped away
without
my
the
life.
multipliers, traps are heavy.
In the I mean, in the Satyr tunnels, yeah, but I feel like in earlier levels they're not that bad. Like spike traps deal like
Yeah.
in Tartarus, what are they dealing like 3 or 4 damage usually?
Is that it?
Yeah, not that.
Maybe it's the
much,
later traps I'm thinking of, like in Elysium. I feel like those ones mess me up.
Yeah, some of them can, like the
Well,
statues with the spears and such.
yeah. I guess along with that, we can go into enemies. That kind of goes along with traps. The exploding wagons, they might as well be a trap. Oh my gosh. I've gotten better at methods to deal with them, but for a while, the exploding wagons, well, the small exploding wagons, but then the big wagons that like charge at you and mow you down, I feel like they do a hefty amount of damage. But those guys, those were tough for a while for me. The spinning blades you can get from Ares, like that you leave a spinning blade when you dash. Oh, that's great. The wagons go right into it. I'm like, you idiots. I got you. But other enemies I hated, the shield dudes in Elysium. They were kind of a hassle because I feel like I would try to go behind them, but there's so much other shit going on there. It would be like I'd go behind them and then get hit by a magic arrow flying through the air. So those guys could be tough. And if I didn't, I found sometimes my build wasn't like great for dealing with them, and I would get beat up sometimes by them. Then going into the 4th area, uh, the rats. Like if you get a bad draw on rats and you're just in a small room with just rats dropping poison everywhere. I lost one run like where I had a Death Defiance plus and I died to rats poisoning the floor. Like I could not kill them fast enough and they're spewing poison all over the place.
I hate those. That entire area I don't like going through.
Outside of the rats, I felt like I did okay with it, but the rats, well,
I would also agree with the shield guys. They're hyper annoying to deal with.
I didn't like in the second area the jumping, like I don't know, like they were stones. I don't know. They would like go up in the air and then they'd follow you.
Oh, I know what
And then
you're
they
talking
slam
about.
down on top of you.
Oh
if you,
yeah.
weren't paying attention.
Yeah,
so
like yep.
when stuff is just getting out of hand, it's like hard to keep track of those things. And
then you
I
got
get hit by them every once in a while.
And you got the Medusa heads trying to turn you into stone.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like that was a deadly combo. You get hit by one of those, and then it was over.
Did you guys ever get into like the reflectability? I can't remember whose ability it was, but you can
Athena.
Yeah, that thing. I found reflecting with my attack to be useful in some runs. I wasn't sure it was going to be, but then once I like started using it, I'm like, sweet.
No,
you could,
I always put deflect on the dash, man.
Oh, I love Aruma casters, and I can just deflect all the stuff back at the room. I can take a lot of joy in that.
That's fair. I feel like if you put divine on the reflect anywhere, you put it on the dash. It just makes the dash the dash is already pretty strong.
Yeah.
That just makes it. I'm gonna keep making this pun, and I make no apologies for it. That just makes it god tier. uh, but like, because the thing is like, it feels like the iframes a lot of times, like they start to peter out like towards the end of the dash. So if you're not careful, you can still
Yeah,
get
well,
hit.
that
But
was
with
my
the divine dash, it seems like you get bigger iframes, and
oh,
now you don't even have to worry about the projectiles when you
see,
dash.
I felt like
So
with Divine Dash, I was like messing up and getting hit instead of reflecting it. I was much better at deflecting with the attack, but who knows? I think I only tried it probably one time until I used the attack instead.
mm,
Um, yeah, so I think the last thing to talk about with Hades is probably roguelite progression. A very important thing for roguelites is kind of the progression of your character over time. So I mean, Hades has its very interesting things where the runs are varied and you build up each run. But then, in terms of roguelite progression, you have the gems that you can build stuff with that will aid you in your journey. You have the trinkets you can level up and discover and obtain, which the trinkets have a wide range. Like, there's a trinket that makes you move faster, to, like Kudro was saying earlier, a trinket that will make sure you get a boon from a certain god. Um, and then there's also the biggest one probably is the mirror, where you can essentially upgrade your character stats.
mhm.
Um,
Right, and
and
there's two different like stats you could upgrade per, I guess, line. I don't know.
yeah, you can change. You have an option of two stats for each one.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So that to me that was par. Um, that was that was good. It totally does what it needs to in this game.
Mhm.
Um, So I like that. I look back to Rogue Legacy and its castle building thing where you build up the castle. That's probably my favorite implementation of that. But overall, this one's good. I don't have any complaints. I don't have any. It's kind of just does what you think it would. You can upgrade your health. You can upgrade
Mhm.
stuff you get. But
So is like the upgrading of your base, let's call it, that's like a typical aspect of
yeah,
roguelites.
roguelites. Yeah, that's one of the things with roguelites is progressing your position per each like outside of because it's run based, but you're also progressing your
Right.
stats.
I
Yeah.
was I was just saying more about the environment. Like you could like paint the walls a different color or
Oh,
like,
yeah.
is that typical or no?
Some of them might have that. I don't know. It's just a cosmetic thing, but yeah. Um,
I never did anything with that. I didn't think it was worth my time because
yeah, I was upgrading the
I'm not
other
really
stuff.
into that. So
It
I
looked, I would, but I wanted the other stuff more. The actual
right,
upgrades.
the
I
stuff
did
that
a
would help
couple
you in your runs.
cosmetics, but that was only because like if you the list of minor prophecies, there is a you can get a bonus if you can get a bonus with like if you do certain things with the house contractor, and I think one of them can include like just decorations and such. So I started spending a few gems on it just to get the
Mm.
reward for it. So I think the reward was like 6 diamonds. So, and I needed those diamonds.
Um, yeah, I guess any other thoughts or any specific characters you guys wanted to highlight?
Hmm.
Not that I can
Well,
think of.
I pretty much liked all the Olympian gods. I think it's really hard to pick out favorites because I really did think all the characters were pretty cool. Um, yeah, I like Dionysus.
I liked his
Dionysus.
abilities, the
Dionysus,
bad
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
and I liked his dialogue. He was entertaining. Um,
Yeah. He might be my favorite one.
I
All
liked
but his.
Megara too. I thought that was interesting dialogue with Megara about how you keep beating her and she's upset.
Right. I liked Scully.
Oh
You
yeah,
could always talk to Scully.
yeah, giving you
Yeah.
tips.
The punching bag, the
I,
the the, the dummy.
I always try to throw him a nectar whenever I can. Like, hey, this is for me beating you up, pal.
Right.
Um, yeah, are we
Uh,
ready?
Mama Nix.
Oh
Gotta
yeah,
gotta give it up to Mama Nix.
yeah, she's really cool. Her character design's cool. The effect on her voice is really cool. Um, yeah, Awesome character.
Yeah, everything is just so good here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess last thing, I like how they populated with like kind of ghost spirits. So like it always
Oh,
felt
yeah.
like there was like, I don't know, like
Right.
it just added to the environment.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I think it would have felt a little empty if they didn't have little ghosts,
Right.
and you could like
Yeah,
listen in the conversations, and they like tell you how they died or stuff like
right.
that.
The
Yep.
small, like, art details are all there, like, your feet are,
Right.
like as you walk on the ground, you can see it, like, leaving heat footprints,
Mm-hmm.
um, but, yeah, so are we ready to, rank this?
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Would anybody like to do the honor of ranking first? Alright, I guess I'll rank first.
Go for it.
Hades is just an amazing game, and I would say it's the top roguelike game that I have played. Um, and just the story's so much fun. Uh, the combat's great. The I I wanna play more of it still. Um, I think, like, it's like, am I at an S or an S plus? It is the top of the genre. I feel like I can't look to any other roguelike game and say any other roguelike game compares. So I feel like it's an S plus. Like there's no flaws here. It's just the best roguelike game I've played, and I think it deserves an S plus. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna give Hades an S plus.
Yeah. I guess I don't have that many roguelike games under my belt. I think
Mhm,
this is maybe the first true roguelike that I
mhm.
played. I played a really fun one on iPhone actually. That was
Oh yeah,
like just kind of like a throwaway game. That was a lot of fun. Um,
I can tell us what it was.
it's called Archerio or
Oh,
Archero.
gotcha.
Um, Same sort of thing. Like there's different worlds, and then there's like 20 or so like levels that you go through, and you can change your character and your weapon, and
Gotcha.
there's different like amulets that you can apply, stuff like that.
Interesting.
Very similar.
Mhm.
Um, it's free to play, so it was just kind of a throwaway like time wasting game, which was nice to play. But anyways, I think I have to put an S for now. Probably
Mhm.
will change once I obviously play more roguelites. So yeah, it's a S for me.
Sure.
Really really great game. Love the story. Um, the gameplay just felt really familiar. Like
Mhm.
there was no questions on what I was supposed to be doing and the best way to do it and all that. So really great game. So yeah, S for me.
That's because you guys just used the shield. I'm kind of with you both. Like, the big debate here for me is S or S plus.
Mhm,
I've only played one roguelike previously, and that was Rogue Legacy.
mhm.
Um, and I mean, this game blows that one out of the water.
Wow,
So
I still like Rogue Legacy. I think it's a pretty good game.
I'm not saying Rogue Legacy is a bad game, but I feel like if you were to ask me to play Rogue Legacy or ask me to play Hades,
Yeah,
my excitement over one is going to be much higher than the other.
sure.
Uh, but yeah, I'm kind of with you. I feel like this game is like the top of its class for these rogue style games. Like I
Yeah,
can't.
it's hard to find flaws. Like, it's just it really does all of it. It's like, well, it's
Yeah,
but
I was thinking about that the entire time. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to make fun of with this game because I feel like I don't have
right.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it does Greek mythology justice. The weapons, the 5 weapons that you have access to, give it a lot of variety, and then you can even unlock different aspects, which add
Right.
tweaks to that.
Yeah, the infernal weapons.
Yeah, like once you start spending the Titan's blood and unlocking that, which adds enough variety to the combat for me, because I mean, like playing with the gun is very different from playing with
Mhm,
like the spear or the fists.
mhm.
So yeah, then all the flexibility with the builds and the boom. I have to go S plus as well. Like I just can't. I can't even really think of too much that I could nitpick.
Right.
So I have to say S plus,
Yeah.
and I will definitely be completing all of the runs I have to in order to see that story play out.
Yeah. Well, I guess moving on to our ranking of roguelites overall list. I think this one obviously we're gonna put in the S tier. Sounds
I
No,
like.
agree with that. Yeah.
no, Colton is clearly F tier. Haven't you heard our conversation?
All right, Hades ranking of roguelites. Hades is in the S tier.